Hello everyone, this is Reg from Microgrinder with Scott, someone who asked on Reddit to be part of my next video series, and we're starting the first one now with a review of some hands Scott's played. He's got around 10 loaded up. Not sure how many we'll get through, but hopefully we'll get through a few. It'll show people what it's like to work with me, and hopefully at the same time Scott will get some benefit from some free coaching. So here we go. Scott, say hello, and then let's get on with the hands. So this is Bovada, yes? So it's all anonymous play. We have no actual reads on anyone. Was it from static tables or from zone tables?
Yeah, static, just regular tables.
So do you remember any reads you had at the time for any of the hands, or
no,
not?
These were from a few weeks ago. I took like a one break week recently.
But these stats are actually the table stats at the time, are they? Or do they just for the
season? Yeah. These are accurate stats at the time.
Okie dokie, right, let's go then, buddy.
Okay. Yeah, just tell me whenever you want me to stop. We were going to focus on flop play.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So I think that's a fairly standard ISO against a fishier player.
I typically 5x it when I'm ISOing, but 4x, 5x. The main thing is just claiming the isolation. The size isn't the biggest issue. I guess obviously the smaller we make it, the less likely we are to actually get an isolation, which is the key point here, is try to get somebody heads up. Because if we make it 3x and then we get 3 callers, we actually haven't achieved anything. We've just bloated the pot with an okay hand. But the purpose of an isolation race is actually to isolate people. So I usually 5x when I'm isolating, but 4x, it's done the job this time, so yep.
Okay. And I think, well, I'm sure I go ahead and see bet. Did this freeze?
It's not frozen at my end. It may well have been frozen. Your holder manager may be frozen.
Yeah, on my end it's frozen. Sorry about that.
No problem. We'll just pause the video for a second.
Let me get this on the other screen as well. Okay.
Okay, so sorry about that. So you were back. So obviously we're going to see bet here.
Yeah. So I guess I'm having issues with c-bet sizings in general. And so I bet slightly more than half pot here. Reason being that I don't think he's folding any jack that he has. Well, first of all, he has a 0 fold to c-bet, which is the statistic right here. So just betting larger purely for value. I also don't think he's folding with 9-10 or 8-10.
Now we've actually possibly made it even bigger still. If he's got a 0 fold to c-bet on a board where he can have a lot of weak draws or weak pair plus draws, I actually think you think you made a large bet there. I think we've made it on the smaller side, really. I think we could have easily
I don't think it's large. It's just slightly bigger than half pot. So do you think I should be going like 3/4 pot here?
I would, against someone like this, when I've got top pair, top kicker on a board where I can get called by all sorts of worse hands, I just go for maximum value before the board gets too scary, because there are quite a lot of turn cards that can either kill our action or kill our hand. Yeah. So I would just check some fat value now while we've got it, because the guy, looks like he's not that into folding. Now, if the board was drier and he had he folded some c-bets, then we could start thinking about making our bets a little bit smaller. But I don't think there's any reason to make small bets here, and I would have probably gone for a much larger bet against this particular villain type. Probably about at the least 180, possibly higher, just basically as much as I think he'd call. If I thought he was bad enough to call a full pot size bet, I would just make a full pot size bet. Because that's the beauty of playing anonymous poker, is we can play really exploitably and never actually get exploited.
Okay.
So I would have gone. That's certainly on the small side, because I'm seeing any card from 7 through to a king. That's going to make it harder for us to get called by worse, or just make him check fold. So I would take the value now while we can get it, because half the deck doesn't really help us.
Okay, cool. So for the rest of the video, do you care about looking at the rest of how the hand plays out, or should we just go on to the next hand?
It depends. If you know there's not really many important points of interest in the hand, we can just go on to the next one. If you think there's another point of interest in the hand, we can just continue through.
Let's continue through. Good. Well, a real quick question: on anonymous tables, would you open larger under the gun as an exploitive play with
if
your
I had a
really value
59,
hands?
if I had a 59-18, a 46-15, and a 38-3 all at the same table, I would absolutely raise larger, because there isn't anyone at this table that I can see that looks like they're going to make life too difficult for us. We've read if we've got pocket kings, it's fine, but I would do the same with pocket eights, pocket sevens, because there doesn't look to be any really aggressive players. So in player, the guy at 59-18, player 6 is it? He looks like he might be a little bit aggressive, might be a little bit 3-bet happy. But having said that, he's got a rather large gap between his VPIP and PFR, so he's most likely going to be calling our opens rather than 3-betting us. So yeah, so I would have no issue here. If I was raising regularly, and this was happening where I was getting 2, 3, 4 callers, I would just keep seeing how much further I could push it. I would start 4xing, then I would start 5xing. I would just see exactly what is a tipping point for when people stop calling. So yeah, the next time I raised, I would probably make it 4x and see what happens, and then 5x, because I mean I don't mind. I'm happy to. If people are going to call my 5x raises with kings, why on earth would I want to make it 3x?
Yeah. Okay, I agree.
So yeah, I would just keep pushing the envelope until eventually start folding. Because this is like your not worst situation here. We've now got an overpair out of position to 3 players, albeit none of them are good players. I mean, player 5 could be okay. But having said that, we're still not in an ideal spot with an overpair.
Okay, so my thinking on this flop is to c-bet again, but I don't think the flop really hits too much of any of my opponent's ranges, except for hands that would most likely be beating me, as in sets and 6-7 suited. I guess there's also the open-enders, like 8-9 suited, 5-4 suited, and any overpairs also calling.
Yeah, I think we have to definitely. I mean,
I agree in c-betting. I just don't. The c-bet size is what I'm curious about.
Well, when we're c-betting into 3 players, we're kind of, because we wouldn't be doing this with our air, for example. We would just be giving up. If we had a hand like pocket 3s here or ace queen or something like that, we probably wouldn't c-bet. So when we c-bet into 3 players, kind of our range is just inherently stronger anyway. So if our range is kind of like face up as being at the top end of our pre-flop range here for c-betting, we may as well just make our bets bigger too, because we're unbalanced. We're kind of polarised having quite a strong hand here anyway, but then we're trying to make like a half pot, like balanced type bet sizing, if you will, which doesn't really make sense. So if we're going to bet this flop, we may as well bet it quite big, because people are going to start putting us on aces, kings, queens, etc., just because of the fact we've c-bet into 3 players. Because we would rarely do this. I would imagine our c-bet percentage in this exact spot isn't going to be that high. There's not going to be too many hands we're going to want to c-bet here. So the hands we are c-betting, we may as well make them larger, because they kind of face up anyway to anyone who's paying any kind of attention.
Okay, so my question to that is, if our hands are face up, which I agree it pretty much is face up, as in a pretty good overpair at this point, if we make it bigger, aren't we generally only getting called by better in this spot?
Well, not necessarily, because I've seen a 59-18, and I've seen he's probably not thinking that way, and if he's got 2 8s, 2 9s, ace 7, 6 5, who knows what else. I think we can get called a lot. Now, we don't want the 15-11 sticking around too much. We're not that keen on the 24-0 sticking around too much either, particularly if either of them respond with aggression. But I think we can definitely get value here, mostly from seat 6. So I would have bet what's in the pot, 335. I would probably have bet in the region of maybe $2.50, hoping that maybe seats 5 and seat 1 don't make life difficult for me, and hoping that we can get a call from seat 6. That'd be my ideal situation. And if I got raised, I would probably just bow out and fold, unless it was seat 6 who raised me, and then I'd probably want to stack off against seat 6, because he looks like he might be the type to overplay ace 7 here, or 2 9s or something like that. Whereas the other two, I don't think they're going to overplay pairs too often.
Okay, I agree. I guess there's also a lot more combos of overpairs than there are of sets on this board, so I shouldn't be too overly worried about that.
But no, we have to be concerned.
Unless I get raised.
Yeah, we have to be concerned if we get raised. If we get called, I think we just have to keep betting and be prepared to fold to raises. But
Okay.
there's not that many turn cards I wouldn't double barrel on here, and we actually get the not worst result, which is the two players we'd rather not have called calling.
Okay.
So what do you think about this turn? Do you think we have a profitable barrel here?
Well, I know what happens in the hand, so I think I'm a little biased, but from an unbiased point of view, I think that the turn card is pretty gross. It completes improves the 7x hands.
It reduces the chances of one of them flopping a set too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So
in some sense, it's also less likely that they have a 7.
Because, for example, I don't think seat 5, 15, 11 is going to have too much 7x in his range here. Now, seat 1, he may have had, it's a bit harder to tell, he's 24-0. We don't really know. His range won't be as well defined as like someone who's clearly irregular. So I'm more concerned from pocket 6s and pocket 2s than I am the 7 improving people too much. So I would probably make a small bet.
Okay, that's what I did do, and my reasoning behind that was also, again, all the overpairs are still going to call, especially a smallish bet.
Yeah.
I think we'll know where we're at if somebody does have a 7 or a full house. Somebody's probably gonna raise.
Yeah, we're betting a fold to a raise, and we're not betting to find out where we are. We're betting for value still from.
Yeah, I'm betting for value.
9 through queens. And maybe some straight draws still. If
8, 9,
if for
example,
maybe
some random 6.
8, 9, 4, 5 possibly if seat 1's bad enough to have a 4, 5 suited. So we can definitely get some value. I think your sizing's fine, and I would fold to a raise because I don't think anyone's going to start bluffing us here. And,
so I fold. They actually both have a 7. So
that is pretty gross when we get min raise there because we're getting such ridiculous pot odds. But congratulations on the discipline to fold because I don't think there's any chance that he's bluffing there. I don't think there's any chance he doesn't have or he doesn't think he has the best hand. If he thinks he's got the best hand, well, kings probably aren't any good. So I'll be honest with you, I would have struggled to make a fold when he just clicks it back. But I think it's a strong fold.
Okay. I have a question. So knowing that they do have 7s, my bet sizing on the flop, I'm not getting them to fold a 7 anyways, right? So I guess my question is, this isn't a point where my bet sizing was bad on the flop, so I get called by a worse hand that ends up improving on the turn and beating.
No, because we want them to call with a 7 on the flop. Why on earth would we want them to fold 7x on the flop? We're happy that people are calling us with 7x.
Okay, yeah.
So, the fact they sucked out on us is neither here nor there. We can't help that. But we're delighted, especially if both of them have a 7. That's an ideal situation for us. So unfortunately, they both tripped up, but such is life.
This pre-flop, I guess he doesn't have a whole lot behind, only 69 big blinds, I guess, but I'm getting such good odds. I'm getting like 1-4, so I'm not sure.
Well, no, we're only getting 2.8 to 1 odds there, that with pre-flop. And I think we could be if...
Or did I say 1-4? I meant to say 1-3. About 1-3, yeah.
But he's made it suspiciously small, which I don't know if you had any reads on his 3-betting. Is he 3-bet before?
I mean, this is the third time he's 3-bet in 13 hands. Well, 14 hands, I guess, but I think that's why I called. He was 3-betting a lot for a small sample size.
It's a pretty miserable hand if he's doing it for value. But if it's the third time he's done it in 14 hands, I would have no issue with 4-betting or calling here. Certainly wouldn't be folding.
If he did 225, I would have folded pre-flop, I think.
Yeah, I think there has to be a point where you're thinking, because obviously what he's doing there is our direct odds are worse, and our implied odds are actually worse as well. So
yeah, okay.
175, I would peel.
So we actually connect with the flop, and I think this is for sure one of the better flops that we can see, where we don't either have 2-pair or sets or boats on the flop. Or straights,
So what's his c-betting strategy been so far?
I mean, he's c-bet 100% so far. which is the statistic. But again, that's over 13 hands, so I don't have any reads. But I feel like we're near the top of our range here, so we have to call at least one C-bet.
Yeah, absolutely. We have some
Or
backdoors
one bet,
too.
yeah.
It's just kind of it's difficult because we don't know. I mean, I wouldn't blame somebody for perhaps even making a small raise there if we think he's going to be. I mean, he looks 23-15 over 69 hands. Looks like he's settling down into being some kind of regular, but at this point, I'm presuming we didn't have that much data on him. So
Yeah.
we were playing a little bit more with the view that he could be bad aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
So in that
Okay.
case, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be looking at his stats now. I might think to myself, we need to be folding at some point. But based on what you had at the time, which was just 13 hands and in three betters three times, I wouldn't be in a hurry to fold top pair good kicker against somebody like that.
On this turn, I honestly don't remember what happens now. If he bets again, I'm more inclined to fold.
Well,
Uh,
if we're based it on our read of just 14 hands, though, I mean, I think check calling down's perfectly acceptable because we thought at the time, after 13 or 14 hands, we had a guy who's had this 100% C bet and who's three betters three times. I don't think, under them circumstances, folding top pair good kicker in a three bet pot's probably going to be a good thing to do.
okay.
So I wouldn't. I would, based on it is literally just on the 14 hands that you had at the time. I would be looking to just call down. And actually, now he's bet that size, I would probably just put the rest in and just try because he might have worse hands that will call at this point.
Okay. So yeah, I
he
do
could be bad.
call.
He could be easily be. He could have Queen Jack. He could have two jacks and just be betting because he's bad and he's aggressive, and that's what players do. Who knows? But I would probably just be like, well,
Okay.
let's just stick the rest in now. We've got literally almost nobody left behind. He's going to call me with lots of worse hands that's going to feel committed with. And yeah, he's going to call with better hands too.
I
It's not
guess
to
we have
make
a
him
blocker
fold.
on the king though as well, so king is less likely.
So I think I would have stuck it in just because I'm happy to get all the money in here. And
Okay.
I don't really want the river to go check. So
Okay. I actually like that play because I remember a lot more. Or well, I know it comes. The river's an ace, and I feel like that's probably the worst river
yeah,
in the deck.
now I could be persuaded to check fold now, but
Yeah, he
I
shoves, and
probably
I fold.
I probably still wouldn't though, just because I just have to go over flop read of I've put this much money in the pot now. I still think it's bad and it's aggressive, and yeah, of course he is a dreadful card, but we're still getting ridiculous odds. We're getting like 3.5 to 1, something like that, which means we only need to be good. What about 22% of the
22%.
time
Yeah.
against a bad aggressive player or someone who I think at the time's bad aggressive? I would probably just call there and not obviously not be happy about it. But if my plan was just to check call down against him because I think he's bad and he's aggressive, kind of check folding on a scare card seems like a counterintuitive thing to do to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Getting such good odds, so I probably would have paid him off there.
Okay.
But I would have
Okay.
checked raise the turn anyway, so I wouldn't have been in that spot.
Yeah, I like the check raise the turn just for this reason.
Yeah, that is a little bit result oriented though.
It is, yeah, because the ace coming on the river is not super likely. That's like one of the only scare cards I feel for my hand.
Yeah, I mean the ace coming's what it's about an 8% chance, and it's something stupid like that. So I would just have stuck it in just because I think he's committed and I think he can definitely have worse hands. That's the only reason I would have stuck it in.
Okay. I think I call here.
No, I think we have an absolute slam dunk for, but against someone who's playing
Okay.
72-52, I think we have an absolute slam dunk value for bet. And hopefully he sticks it in and we call and he's got ace five or whatever rubbish he's got. I think by calling here, what we do is we encourage the 21-14 guy to come along too.
Okay.
Because he's going to know this guy's a whale. He's going to be keen to play pots with him. When we just call, he's got good position on the player that he needs to be most worried about, i.e. us.
Yeah.
And he's also getting better odds. So I want to do it for two reasons now. I want player two, the regular, out of the pot if possible, and I just the most important reason is just absolutely massive fat value from a whale. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine if we can just make it say $6.80 to $7, something like that. He's going to call, and we can just shove the flop if it's favourable to us, and he's going to call with all sorts of junk because there's not going to be that much of an overbet on the flop. He's going to
Okay.
have
Yeah.
another five. He's going to have $17 left. There's going to be 14 or so in the pot, so we could maybe even make it 750 to leave ourselves near enough a pot size shove for the flop, and just try and
Okay.
shovel money in as quickly as possible, whilst the whale still likes his hand.
Okay.
So that would have absolutely been my strategy here.
Okay, so actually seeing what I did for that, I think mainly because of these two, well, these four statistics. The 22% is his three bet, and this over here, which is not obviously a great statistic for the sample sizes that I have, is his fold to four bet.
What number is that? Because we can't see your cursor. So
Uh,
what numbers is for the four bet?
0% is his fold to four bet.
Right, yeah. Well, I've just seen the 71.52, and then I'm just looking at that and that only and thinking this guy
Okay, yeah.
is going to be really bad. He's going to call me with all sorts of hands that I'm absolutely destroying. And then, yeah,
Hmm.
and I would have made it far bigger. Far bigger.
Okay,
I would have definitely had this up to in sevens for sure. Definitely in the sevens.
okay.
But yeah, I just think he's going to call super wide.
I agree. And so I guess maybe I'm pretty nitty. Uh, let's see here. I actually donk. I don't
Well,
know how I feel about.
we haven't donked because we had a
Oh,
four
yeah. Sorry, we four bet.
we're the four better. I don't have an issue with that because yeah, the ace it's a pain in the
Is
arse, so it's
yeah,
there. But I mean, this guy's
yeah.
so loose, he doesn't have to have an ace. He doesn't have to have an ace at all. So yeah, I would bet. I mean, it's going to be gross if he raises us, and I think
How much are you betting here?
um,
I obviously bet like a third
probably
pot.
probably not much more than that because even though he's maniac, if he doesn't have a hit, if he doesn't have an ace, he's going to find it harder to call us. And I am betting even value to try and get value from worse hands than two queens. So I would be on the small side. And if he raised me, I would probably just let it go and just curse myself for making my four bet too small pre.
Okay.
But yeah,
Uh,
I think your sizing's fine. I think if he raises, we have a very irritating fold to make.
okay.
And if he calls, I think we can consider just shoving the turn because I think it's raised well.
So he raises, and yeah, I fold.
Yeah, I think we have to fold at this point because he
Okay.
doesn't need to raise. You know, I mean, if he's got a hand like say two eights or I don't know 10-9 or 10-7 or whatever, it's very unlikely he's going to raise. And I think he's
Hmm.
probably only going to raise with an ace, and maybe if he's into bluffing as a bluff, but um, I'm having a hard time sort of seeing what his post flop stats look like. Is he
Yeah.
aggressive post flop too? Do you know?
Uh, he c bets 25% of the time and folds to c bet 50% of the time.
Yeah, so that's somebody who doesn't look like they're getting out of line too much post flop. So I would
Yeah.
just be really annoyed at this point and just fold. But the
Okay.
good thing is, he's still going to be there, and with us being one of the best players at the table, we're still going to have one of the best chances of being the ones that felt him in the end. So I think the trick here is just fold, learn from my mistakes that we perhaps could have made the four bet slightly bigger, and then just be grateful he's there really, and just hope to get him before somebody else does, and don't
Okay.
allow ourselves to get tilted.
So I agree with the pre-flop that we can four bet a lot larger for value. How does our bet size change on this flop if we had four bet $7 pre-flop?
I would just be jamming and
You'd just be
hoping.
jamming?
Yeah, still. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
the ace is a pain. It really is a pain. But I'm jamming and jamming for value because I think if he's got a 10, he's not going to fold. I think if he's got a pair, he's not going to fold. Who knows? He might be bad enough to call with a good shot. And I'm just not prepared to. When I've got just one pot size bet left against an absolute whale, yeah, then the ace isn't a great card for us. But I'm not prepared to check fold. So I'm going to put the money in. I'm going to check call or shove. I think we get better value by jamming ourselves and letting him call with worse than we do by letting him check back some of his worst hands or maybe only bet when he's got an ace. So I would just stick
Okay.
it in to get, because if I'm going to stack off anyway, I might as well put it in myself and try and get called by some worse hands.
Okay, that makes sense. How does it change if, as opposed to him being a whale, he's more of like a reggish player?
Well,
More like
I'm,
21-14?
I'm way less likely to 4-bet pre-flop for a start because I think he's going to play
Okay,
a lot better to a 4-bet than a whale is.
okay.
So unless I had a read that he was like 3-bet calling worse hands than pocket queens or prepared to stack off with like ace queen and things like that, I probably wouldn't be that inclined to 4-bet because
Okay.
we're getting close to overplaying our hand. Because if
Mhm.
he 5-bets on us, pocket queens is probably at best flipping and at worst
Okay.
crushed. So I probably wouldn't 4-bet at 21-14.
Okay, cool. Let's see what happens here.
I've got to credit you with your game selection, by the way. We've seen a lot of stats that I'd love to play with.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's something at least. uh, so
I wouldn't call 4-bet here for a start, and I'll tell you my reasons for why. The first reason is I think when we call 4-bet here, we make it really hard for anyone to continue unless they've got an absolute monster themselves. And if they have got a monster themselves, we're probably going to get the money in on most flops anyway. But the second reason is seat 2, or seat 1, sorry, the
suit one, yeah,
73-18.
73-18.
I don't want him folding anything. So I would just call, and I'm just going to play my hand like I set on the flop. I'm not going to be worried too much about flops. Because if we calls, it's very likely player 3 is going to call. And we're going to be in a bad spot with aces four ways. But I'm prepared to gamble with them this way
Okay,
to try and stack the whale.
the whale, yeah.
Yeah, because
Okay,
if we make it say $5 here, which is probably quite a smallish size, maybe even $4.50. Seat 3 is almost always going to fold everything apart from kings, maybe ace king. Seat 5's going to pretty much fold everything bar in the same range, and we're also going to lose seat 2, seat 1 quite a lot. So
okay,
I'm prepared to gamble with them and just call, and then fast play on almost any flop.
okay, cool. So I do end up four betting to 450. Seat
Oh,
one calls.
we get the whale anyway, so that's good.
I also get this guy to call. Uh, so my question is, like, obviously I have to c-bet, but what's the proper c-bet sizing?
Well,
This just seemed, uh,
I would seriously just jam the flop. Because we have to end up either making a stupidly small bet like we have, which gives people ridiculously good
odds.
pot odds to call us, and it's just if we bet a reasonable size, which would normally be in this size pot, $7. We're obviously going to be committed anyway because we're going to have over like 50% of our stacking. People know
Yeah.
that, and I think by overbet jamming, it's kind of a monkey way of repping that you want people to fold as well.
Okay.
You know,
So,
so I
okay.
would just, I'd look at the flop side, I'd look at the pot size and think, well, I've got $19. There's 14 in the pot already. I'd look at it now and think, I wish I'd made it $5.25 because then we'd have
Yeah.
a roundabout a pot size bet. But yeah, I would just jam now. I wouldn't be messing around with $4 bets.
Okay.
I would just
So
look it in.
the two options I was deliberating between was either just shoving or
Oh,
doing
betting
a small
small.
bet,
Yeah, and I think
assuming that this guy would call and then the pot would be like $22 and I'd be able to make a 15 into 22, which would seem like a more reasonable
I think the
turn
thing
size
that
bet
makes
than like 7 into like 25,
yeah,
you know?
I think what makes it slightly better to bet small is the fact we have the ace of clubs. So
Clubs as
at
well,
least we
yeah.
have some redraws. If we didn't have the ace of clubs, I'd be even more inclined to shove. But
Okay.
because even if a club comes, we've got a redraw on the river, it's not as bad.
Okay, yeah, and then I just go through with my plan of shoving, and
Yeah,
he had King Jack, and the river was Jack. Well, that
well,
doesn't matter.
that doesn't matter at all. You played the
Yeah,
hand well.
yeah.
I would just have gone for the shove, but if we'd gone for the shove, we would have just got him to fold. So, yeah,
He actually had
your line works better.
he had a King Jack of clubs,
Ah,
so
right.
yeah,
So,
he
so
had
he
the
would have
flush draw.
called. Yeah, he
So
would have called the
he would have
flush.
called anyways, probably. Uh, so yeah, I'm betting for value here, especially looking, he has a zero fold to C bet, but that's over only 13 hands. So that means he probably just called the one time on the flop. But I definitely get value out of worse jacks, 8-9 as well, 6-5. I think, yeah, I get enough value out of a lot of hands to be able to make this bet. And
Yeah,
his range is wider as well, I feel, than what 25-17 shows, just because he was in the big blind.
yeah, I think you're
Uh,
probably right. I think we have to bet this flop. It's how
I
big are we
bet
betting?
really small, though.
Yeah, that's
So,
probably too small. I would have gone on the smaller side because he's a regular, or it looks like he might be regular, so he's less likely to have as wide a calling range as some of the fishes have. But I still, what was it, 160 in the pot was there. I probably still would have made it around maybe 95 to $1, something like that.
okay.
But I
I'm
mean, we are
also,
nitpicking a little bit though. I mean, I don't think his range is going to change too much. I don't think he's going to all of a sudden start popping off on bluff raising us because we've made it small. I just think we miss out on a tiny bit
some
of value.
value. Okay. I'm also more prone to make it more like 120 if I have ace jack, just because he can still have. Well, no, maybe that's stupid.
No, I think you're on the right
It,
tracks there. If we have
it
ace
doesn't
jack,
seem super like. Well, I guess he could have ace jack still. He
no, but
has.
if we have
He can
ace
also have
jack,
king jack.
that means he can call us now with king jack and queen jack, and we win rather than lose and chop. So I think
Yeah,
that's a very good reason to bet more because there's just more worse hands that can call. There's far less
yeah,
worse hands that can call here because our kicker's not great.
yeah.
So
So
yeah,
that's one of the reasons why I did end up betting smaller. I know,
no, I
just
think you
because
would.
there's two jacks, but I think that's maybe being a little too scared.
Yeah, but no, you're definitely on the right track to what you're thinking, though. That is definitely the correct way to think, because just quite simply, we have, um, obviously, if we say we had 10-9 of spades here, obviously we could bet as big as we wanted because we've got the nuts. There's loads and
Yeah.
loads of worse hands that can call. The less and less worse hands there are that can call, the smaller we should be betting because we're targeting a smaller range, and therefore we need to be making it more attractive to the weakest parts of somebody's range. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
I have no issue with betting smaller here, and I think you're definitely on the right tracks there. I would have made a bigger bet with Ace Jack or King Jack because yeah, you're definitely on the right lines. So yeah,
Okay.
don't doubt yourself because you were right there too. You were right in what you were saying.
Mm, I don't know how much you want to focus on turn play, but I always have questions about bet
No, I'm
sizing,
fine.
I
I'm
guess.
fine with it because I mean it's an issue because we picked up some equity, but
Yeah.
it's harder to get called by worse now because we're firing a second barrel, so our range is getting that little bit stronger. Um, it's the bets are getting bigger, so he's less likely to call with worse hands. So yeah, what was in the pot? 298, $3 for argument's sake. Yeah, I think that sizing's fine. I wouldn't go an awful lot bigger than that.
Hmm.
And if he was to raise us, depending on what size, I think it's probably just going to be a call and then fold the river if we don't improve to a flush.
Part of the problem with him calling as well is that we have the jack of clubs, right? So he can't have as many flush draws. So like his jacks that he has now are more weighted towards jacks that are better than ours, right?
Yes, I would
Does that
thought
make
so.
sense?
Yeah, well, you can have like maybe Jack Ten of Hearts, can't he? Jack Queen of Hearts, I guess, which is flipping with us. Yeah, but there's not, and obviously Jacks of Diamonds is too. But
Yeah.
yeah, obviously it's going to be harder to get called by worse, so we need to um, size our bets appropriately. If we'd have bombed pot here, it would have been I would have been asking why on earth have we done that. Cause it's
Okay.
almost like we're bluffing if we start bombing pot. It's almost like we're trying to get somebody off, like a better jack, like King Jack or something, which is clearly never going to happen. So no,
Yeah. So to
I like our sizing. I wouldn't have minded if you'd gone even smaller, to be honest with you, just for when this sort of thing happens. Then we're
uh,
getting a better price than our money.
yeah, this is like a pretty giant. Well, it's not giant. I guess
It's only like
it's
2.5
about
x,
pot.
isn't it? I would just call here and then just if I didn't improve to a flush on the river, I would just fold because I think we're beat at this point, but I think we have enough outs. I think our flush draw is going to be. I think we're going to get paid in the flush because with the flush being backdoor as well, it's going to be harder for him to put us on it.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I
I
would not fold
guess that
here.
makes sense because I ended up folding. Just I calculated the pot odds, and I didn't. I mean, it's 26%, so I don't have pot odds to hit the flush, and I'm almost 100% sure that we're beaten here.
Well, we
Uh,
are, but we're not that far from getting the correct odds. I think we're about
so
18% away at this point to
yeah,
hit. So we're not that far away from getting the correct. We don't have to make up that much extra money on the river when we hit our flush to make it
okay.
okay. And I would definitely have called here
So
because
with the implied odds, you think
yeah, I think
okay
if I would call here and just fold the river, and
to a
if I don't
non-club?
hit, yeah,
Okay,
without question, and I think that's fine. 'Cause I think when a club does come on the river, he's either going to bet again and we can just call, or he's going to check, and we only have to get called on a 1/3 value bet to actually to our turn to make our turn call into a profitable one.
okay,
So
yeah, cool.
yeah,
I like that.
I would not have folded there. If I was going to bet fold, I probably would have just checked back. We have too much equity there to bet fold.
Okay. So I three bet, which I think is okay.
I think it's okay
He's
because
34, 32, and he has a 40% steal from small blind.
over a very small sample, that's probably what 2 of 5 I would imagine, is it?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, on top of that, people just don't fall blind versus blind. You know, if he's got any kind of hand, I can imagine, I can just see all sorts of 10-9 suited, Jack-10 suited, all pocket pairs, all Broadway cards. There's just tons and tons and tons of worse hands they can call. And if we get 4-bet, I think we have a really quite easy fold.
yeah, okay, I agree. So I think I like the three bet, and I like folding the four bet. So this is an interesting flop, in my opinion, and that it's pretty scary for being a three bet pot with the king and the queen. We don't have a made hand right now.
Yeah, and
Uh,
he can have a lot of King X and Queen X in his range too.
that
Let's have
I'm
that
not
right.
getting, that I'm not getting to fold with uh, with a C bet here. I'm not getting a king or a queen to fold. I also don't think I'm getting pretty much any spade to fold. Like, especially he can have the ace of spades as well. I don't have
Yep,
the ace of spades.
I
I'd be a lot
agree.
more comfortable C betting this flop if I had the ace of spades instead of
Yeah,
the
I
jack of
think having
spades.
the Ace of Spades is significant here. The fact we don't have it, I think this is really quite an easy check back.
Okay, so yeah, cool. Nice. I also, so that is one part of why I checked back. The other part is that we obviously have the draw to the flush. And we also have the gut shot for the 10,
Yeah,
which can give us a better hand as well.
and
And which could also improve his range.
it would be quite a disaster if he has a hand like Ace 10 with the Ace of Spades and the check raise bluffs us.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad for us.
Okay, so I just checked to kind of realize the equity that I have in the hand. Um, mm,
I'm not happy that he's bet because we need him to be betting the 10 of Spades here or bluffing. If he's value betting, we're toast. We really are toast at this point because he probably only has the Ace of
yeah,
Spades.
I'm not
Um,
actually too worried about him betting here because at 25 NL, I see a lot of players, if you don't see bet, it's almost like automatic. Like 100% of the time, the player is going to lead on the turn,
Possibly,
expecting
but
a large
on
percentage.
this particular board texture, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think on a lot of board textures, I do absolutely agree with it. But on this board, on 4 flushes, like 2 high card boards, I think he's very, or he should be very polarised here to having either the Ace of Spades or nothing. I don't think, for
Yeah, yeah,
example, he's just betting a king here. I don't think he's betting the 6 of Spades. You know, if he's got 2 6s with the spades. I don't
yeah.
think he's
I
doing that
agree.
either. I think he's going to be bluff catching a lot with his weak spades here. If he's got pocket nines, pocket tens with a spade,
Hmm.
pocket seven, I think he's going to bluff catch a heck of a lot. So
Yeah,
I'm a little bit nervous about calling. I mean, obviously we can't fold here, but
yeah. That's what
if
I'm
we
saying. We can't
call
fold, but I don't want to re-raise either
and
for the reasons that you just mentioned.
then he's got, oh no, racing would be horrendous. But now
Yeah.
if he bets like $5 on this river, I mean, I think we have a fold personally. And when he
Uh,
checks, um,
do you think it's a check back?
If we're going to bet, I like betting small. I really do,
Okay,
because I think we
I
can
bet
get.
small just because I think he's going to call with a king still.
Yeah, I don't think
I
he's
think
got
he's
the
going to
ace of
call with
spades. I think he would have bet the ace of spades here. So I don't think he's always going to. I mean, yeah, the board's paired, but I still think he would bet the ace of spades most of the time. So yeah, I would go if I was going to go for thin value. You would absolutely make it small, and if he raised, I would just turbo fold.
Okay, cool. I don't know what he had, but I won, so
That's good.
nice. He did end up calling, so I like that. Let's see what I do here. I have 3-bet squeeze. I think we talked about this last time, how you're more prone to 3-bet squeeze non-wheel aces. You're more likely to just call with ace-3 suited here.
Yes, I am, and I would probably ace six through ace nine. I would be putting in my three bet bluffing range. The suited variety. But if I am going to three bet it, this is a good place to do it because we've got them in. I think we did discuss this last time in the video that failed. We are doing it the right way around because at least we've got the reg that's open and the fish that's called.
Yeah, we're putting him in the bad spot.
Yeah,
I also, now looking at this, I do also just like flatting with the ace-3 in that we have player 5 in the big blind who's almost certainly going to come along at 45 too.
End of the day, it's just ace three. We don't have to beat our chests about it and think, oh, we have to defend this, that, and the other. I actually can't remember this hand, so it's like a whole new adventure to me again.
So we flop pretty well. Well, essentially the nuts, right?
Yep.
Don't think he has 3-6 here.
It'd be unusual. It'd be very unusual.
Ever. Yeah. I'll be happy to lose my $22 to 3-6 here. But so, I mean, we flop the nuts. He has a 0 fold to c-bet over 11 hands. So again, that's not a huge sample size. So that's like one hand probably. So I still think we have to c-bet and that he can be calling with any ace, even though we have an ace blocker. But usually when people call 3-bets, I feel like they're weighted more towards pocket pairs.
Yeah,
at 25 and 0. So I think he's going to call with any overpair on the flop c-bet. And I also think that if he has a set, then we can get it in on the flop, and he's going to be coolered. So now, actually, based upon that analysis, I think I'd like a larger c-bet size on this flop here than what I did. I bet less than half pot.
I would have been going $5 there because there's so many hands. I mean, people love to put you on ace king in 3-bet pots and call with pocket pairs here. So I would absolutely have just bombed $5 into it, and now we would have had. We just stop a second, just take that bet back a minute. If we'd have bet 5, there would have been 4 more in the pot, which would have made a pot of 17, and he would only have had now 16 something in his stack, so he could have then just shoved the turn without being an overbet. Instead, now we've got this awkward turn sizing
with stack size, yeah. Okay.
Where if we just make it slightly bigger on the flop. And yeah, we're going to get slightly more folds, but when we get called, we're going to make a lot more money. So if he folds to 5 on the flop, he's usually not going to be making too many big hero folded pocket pairs. So there's that many. There's a few.
Yeah.
I think we cut his range down a little bit between 3 and 5, but not enough where I think that makes 3 a better size than 5.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I completely agree. And now on the turn, I guess we just have awkward stack sizes compared to the pot.
Yeah, and I think now on the turn, what I'd like to do here is I'd carry on trying to rep ace king, and I would possibly go for a check shove here, just because I still think we've got the best hand, but I think he's way more likely to stab with a hand like pocket sevens, pocket eights, if we check, than he is to call a large bet.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think our only options is jam or fold here, really. Yeah, we can go for another small bet, but I think it's jam or sorry, not jam or fold. That was wrong. Jam or check jam. I think, and I would probably. I'm not worried about getting sucked out on. If he checks back his pocket sixes and hits a miracle on the river, hits a 5 and 6, well, hats off to him. But I would probably try and now I bet small. I would look like I'd try and rep a whiffed ace king. I'd try and induce him to stab with a pocket pair and then just ship it in over his face.
Okay. I think so. I like that. Uh, I like that line. And so what I ended up doing was betting small relative to the pot. And I guess my reasoning was the number of combos of overpairs that he has is a lot larger than the number of boats that he has now, or
Yeah, I
quads, I
mean,
guess.
he's
So
probably,
I,
if he sat there with eights through jacks, which is, I think jacks is maybe a bit of a stretch. It looks like he might be the type who'd three bet jacks. But if he sat there with some kind of middle pair, we are giving him quite enticing odds. But having said that, we have three bet, C bet, and then bomb the turn, and we bet the
yeah,
turn,
so
which does kind
yeah,
of should make it does
pretty
make
strong.
we do look strong here, which is
Yeah.
why if we're going to bet, I think we're going to look strong whether we bet $6 or whether we shove. So I would prefer the shove because I think a shove actually looks weaker here sometimes, and to a bad player, a shove would look weaker than a small bet, I would imagine.
Okay, so hypothetically, we check, he checks back instead of inducing. He doesn't
Um,
bet.
then I shove the river.
Just lead out, shove the
Yeah,
river.
I just shove the river because he's probably has either got showdown value. If he's checked back, he's either got showdown value or he's got a hand he's just given up on. I think we're going to be very unlucky again. Obviously, if he's got something like pocket sevens and he hits a seven, if it's a miracle boat, well, unlucky for us. We can't really help
Yeah, yeah,
that. We have
yeah.
to take lines against his range. So yeah, if we checked, he checked back, I would shove. If we checked, he bet, I would shove.
Okay.
Basically, I'm looking to shove at some
I
point
actually
during
like
the
the
hand.
shove on the river as well. If he checks back, just because it looks kind of weak to me.
Yeah, it looks bluffy. It does look bluffy, and he's going to be mighty
Yeah,
tempted if it just comes down, say another two or something. He's going to be mighty tempted to look us up with a hand like with some kind of pocket pair, or maybe even ace high that's trying to get a chop or something. Who knows?
so you'd still shove even if the board pairs again on a
Yeah,
two or a
because
four.
I'm quite happy with the board pairs again because it just rules out another set that you can have really. I'm like, if I see a
Okay.
two or a four, all of a sudden it's very unlikely he's got pocket fives because there's two out there. It's going to be very unlikely he's got pocket fours or pocket twos because it's going to be one of there's
Yeah,
going
I
to be
guess it reduces whatever
quads out
pairs
there
to one
twice. So
combo.
it reduces the amount of times that we can be beat by, in my opinion.
Okay, and I guess there's probably not many besides the pocket pairs on this type of board. There's not many other hands that are connecting with it really.
No, I can't think of a single card where I wouldn't shove the river and
Okay.
and just hope that it hasn't somehow completed his full house if he's called a pocket pair.
Okay. Cool. I think he folded, but that's neither here nor there. Uh,
I would have gone for a bigger squeeze there, just again because the guy's
just
80-30.
80-30.
And I
Oh,
just
this
think he'll
hand's
call more.
gross. I
I,
remember
I
this
just
hand.
think I just think if we make it 350, I think he calls nearly all the time because he's 80-30 and 80-30s they tend to just have call or raise buttons. They don't tend to have full ones. So
Okay.
yeah, I would just
A
play
lot bigger.
really, really, really exploitably. Make it 350. Just make sure that we get him heads up. And if he calls, yeah, I'm not really scared of the 14-5 guy. I mean, who's ever scared of 14-5s? But I would still rather be heads up against this guy.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, I would. There's nothing wrong with 250 at all, but it's definitely on the smaller side.
So this guy has been playing at the table for 47 hands, and yeah, he is 80-30. I remember this hand now. He calls, the other guy calls. Uh, he's been donking 75% of hands,
Yeah,
folding 40% of the time. Uh, I've seen him shove on lots of scare cards as well, and he's just like a maniac, basically. Uh, so he donks like really small into the pot. Um, this could be a flush draw, or he could just be connected, or he could be trying to steal. So to me, this seems like a pretty easy raise.
I'm just going to raise and leave myself half pot for the turn. So whatever size leaves me half pot on the turn, that's what I'm going to make it. So 180 to us.
Okay,
So 9 in the pot now. We've got 22. So we can just make it something like 7 here, 6 or 7, and we're going to have a really easy. I mean, hopefully he sticks it in our eye and we can just call it off. But we're going to have a really easy turn situation because there isn't a single turn card that I'm folding off
Okay,
against this
sweet.
player.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, okay,
And yeah, that
cool.
is one of the most unpleasant cards, but I don't care. I mean, it's an absolute whale.
Uh,
It's just going in, and that's just pretty much all there is to it.
so based upon my read that he has been bluffing on turn cards, if I didn't have that read, do you think I have to fold here?
Um, Not against an 80-30. I just
You
personally,
just do it
I just don't
anyways?
make, I don't make big faults to these guys. I really
Okay.
don't, because just who knows? I mean, he could have king three for all we know. You know, yeah, he could have 10-5 off too. Who knows what he can have? You know, I played a hand last night where I three bet one of these guys really big, and I had aces. The flop come down king four two rainbow. He donked, I raised, he shipped it in my face. I snap called him. I was really happy with the situation. He had king four off, so I mean, it's just you can't legislate for some of the hands they're
Okay.
going to have. There's no point trying to. Just I'm at the top of my range against a really bad player, so I'm just going to try and shovel money in the pot, and I'm going to win more than enough to make it absolutely fine.
Okay. Because he ended up having 10 jack, and I think I felt pretty bad, but I think I was being
No,
results
you're
oriented.
absolutely being result orientated there because
Okay.
if
I
you
wasn't
literally
sure. I wasn't 100% sure whether or not I should have found a fold on the turn, but I thought there was a possibility that I
there's
could have found a
there's
fold on the
lots of
turn.
players I would fold this turn to. That guy is
14-5, for
absolute,
example.
yeah, 14-5. That guy, the 80-30, is absolutely not one of them. I'm fist pumping him, but I'm actually beating him in the pot, you know.
Okay.
I'm really happy to get all the money in there.
Okay, cool.
Right, so I think we'll make this the last one because we've just come up to 50 odd minutes now, so.
All right. Sounds good. Hmm.
See, these are some of my
So,
least favourite spots, these, just because we're out of position. We're somewhat near the top of our range, but we don't really know how we want the hand to play out. Because
yeah.
can we really get three streets here? It's going to be damn thin against a 14-12. Again, if we were up against the 80-30 guy, we're fist pumping again. We're up against a
Yeah.
14-12. Are we really going to get three streets here?
Yeah. So,
Probably
so I
not.
think that we can get two streets of value at most. Just also partly because the board's connected in some sense.
Yeah.
If it was more like Jack 2-4, then I'd be a lot happier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely, but there's lots of two pairs he can have. There's lots of cards that can make him two pairs or make him straights.
mhm.
Like if a queen came off, for example, I wouldn't feel at all comfortable with the situation. If obviously if a 9 or a 10 or a king came off, there's lots and lots of cards. And for me to get more than one street, for me to get three streets here,
Yeah.
I'd want to see like an ace or it come running deuces or running fours or something like that. You know,
Yeah.
I think this starts to get thin quite quickly if we keep getting caught. Or even
Okay.
worse, raised. I think we have an easy bet fold on the flop here. I think we probably have an easy bet fold on turn bricks, and then the river, I think it becomes a check something most of the
Okay.
time.
Do you ever, well, before we talk about the bet sizing, do you ever check back on the flop here just to try and control the pot?
Well, we can't check back because we're out of position that way.
Or, I mean, do we not see bet just to try and control the pot?
The only time I would check here is if he had quite a high raise C bet, or if he had a high bet when checked to.
Okay.
But
I don't have either of those
or
stacks.
if he has a high fold to C bet too, I might check
He
him
has a
as well.
he has a zero fold to see bet.
So I would probably, based on the fact that we don't know him, he looks nitty. I think we can get some value. For example, I don't think he's folding pocket tens. I don't think he's folding pocket nines. I doubt he's folding. Well, he's not folding queen jack or king jack. He might if he somehow has some sort of ace eight or ace seven suited, which is much less likely. But if he does,
Mhm.
he's probably peeling them once. I'm just concerned about how do we get to realise our equity if he's any good, because we have to start checking at some point, and if he's any good,
Yeah.
he's going to realise that we're checking because we have the kind of hand we have. And if he's any good, he's going to be able to take us off him. Where he might
Okay.
not be any good. He might just call us with pocket nines in the flop here and then let us check it down. Who knows? He might be that type of player. I personally wouldn't be. If I saw a regular C bet this flop and then check the turn, I would just go bomb, bomb, turn river and expect them to fold a lot of the time.
Yeah. Okay, I agree. So based upon the fact that he has 0 full to c-bet, and because we don't feel like we can get 3 streets of value, we're betting smaller here on the flop.
I'm
Is that
probably
true?
betting about 110, something like that.
Okay, I think I probably bet less than that.
Because I just don't
Also,
want to give his draws too much of a price. If he's got a pair plus straight draw here, if he's got like an 8-9 or a 7-9 or something like that, or a Jack-9, a Jack-10, there's loads of things we can still get quite a bit of value from. 103 is fine. I don't have an issue with 103.
okay. Before we go to the turn, I have one more question. You said that if he had 100% fold to c-bet, you'd be more likely
The
to
higher
check.
the higher his
To
fold to
check.
c-bet is, the more likely I'm going to be to check, because obviously the more c-bets he folds to, the harder it's going to be for me to get value. I just think he's going to fold everything that I'm beating and only call with hands that have decent equity against me, because he's folding that often to c-bets. We have to respect it when he does call. We have to respect it. His range is much stronger than a typical person's calling range.
Okay,
Does that
I
make sense?
guess. Yeah, it makes sense, but uh, I also feel, well, no, I guess he's still calling with every jack, right? Probably, even with 100% full to c-bet
Yeah,
over
he
42
probably is. I
hands.
mean, I'd need to have that over a decent sample size. I wouldn't take 80% over 5 as enough. I'd take 80% over 100 examples. Then yeah, it's a pretty chunky, reliable stat. 80% over 5, I wouldn't really. I'd probably just bet. So based on your sample size of 42 hands, I would just bet regardless of what his full to see bet
Okay.
stat was. But if it was 80 over 420 hands, then I'd be much more inclined to think, well, this guy isn't really going to call me with worse very often because he
Yeah, we're
folds that
almost turning our
often.
hand into a
Yeah,
bluff,
so
right?
he folds that often. Well, we're turning our hand into a bluff, but we're actually never ever going to actually make it a successful bluff because no
Yeah,
better hands are ever going to fold. So we only
yeah.
ever turn our hand into a bluff when we make better hands fold, which we wouldn't do.
So
So
you
we're
you
just
would
overplaying our hand. That's what we're doing.
you would consider doing that with like Jack 10 though. Well, Jack 10 actually
I
has
would probably
some
just, if
equity.
someone had a fold to see bet of 80%, I would probably just check and weaken my
With any
range
Jack?
slightly. Yeah, with any jack. I would probably, I will still see bet queens, kings, aces because we can get value from jack X. But I'll probably check just to weaken my range slightly, just so if he does check back, I'll feel better. Get back. I'll feel better at my chance of getting called by worse on the turn or the river because once we check the flop, our range is weakened in his eyes.
Hmm.
So we've got more chance of getting some thin value on the turn of the river.
Okay.
But yeah, if I had queens, kings, or aces, I would still bet because there's obviously more worse hands that he can call with, despite the fact he still folds a lot. And now he's min raised us against a Nick playing 14-12. This might seem insanely nitty, but I would just fold here because how
Okay.
do we honestly proceed with the hand? I mean, we're not going to check call many turns. Um, the only turn card I really want to hit that might improve us past his flop value range is an ace. And Jack doesn't change anything on the turn really. If we were behind on the flop, we're still going to be behind on the turn. So yeah, I mean against a 14-12, I could be persuaded just to fold now, unless I thought he was just going to check back with his like. Because you get some players here who will just min raise king jack and then go check back turn, check back river,
Okay.
just
Does it
just as a way to
also,
find out.
he does have a 9.1 3 bet, so it seems like he's aggressive in some sense when he
But
does
again,
get in a hand.
that is a really tiny sample size
Tiny
of
sample size over
42
42.
hands.
So you're
I
not factoring that in at all.
I'm not interested in what his three bet size is
Okay.
because it's completely irrelevant. And that's not me being rude to you. It's just when I'm playing, I don't look at three bet sizes of people, three bet stats of people who have only got less than maybe
Yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
200 or 300
I
hands
mean,
in
I
them.
agree. Like this could be two 3 bets in 42 hands or something,
Yeah,
which is
and
not ridiculous.
no, it's not ridiculous. It's far from
So,
ridiculous. It's
yeah,
entirely possible. Or it could be that he three bets a lot and he's actually not had many hands to three bet with in his eyes. We don't know. It's
yeah.
just completely unreliable. So therefore, if we can't rely on it, I'm not going to use it.
So, but because the VPIP and the PFR converge a lot quickly over a small sample size, you're more willing to make this fold even with top pair, top kicker,
Yeah,
just because he's 14-12.
He's folding a lot on a site where people don't tend to fold a lot. So he's going to be some kind of regular. If he's some kind of regular, he's going to have some idea of how to play post flop. And even though we might be folding the best hand here, it's how we have to assume he's going to continue the aggression. There's no reason for us to think he won't. And we can't really continue against much more aggression. We're really going to go check, call, turn river? Probably not. So I think it's either decide now that this guy's spewy enough to just call down with, or just get out of the hand now, because even though we might have the best hand, it's going to get way too difficult for us to continue.
Okay. So I like that conversation. I do end up calling now, and then the turn's an ace.
Well, that's probably the only card I'd want to see, and even then it could get us in trouble. Against the top of his range, it's still going to get us in trouble.
It's in trouble, yeah. Because I mean things that are, I mean we're still losing to sets, we're still losing to jacks.
We just jumped ahead of Jack 8, Jack 7, and 8-7, and I don't think he's going to have 14-12. Not going to have too much Jack 7 in his range, possibly not even Jack 8. So I think we've just jumped ahead of 8-7, and that's about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think begrudgingly we have to call on this turn.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I wonder, do I call? I don't remember how this hand plays out.
I wouldn't call here, just because I think the chances of somebody raising the flop, bombing to betting turn, bombing river, without a nutted hand in these games is quite slim. Of course, he can have some bluffs, but if we go back to the flop, what bluffs can he have? You know that there's no draws, there's no semi bluffs he can have. So he's either been airballing from the flop, or we're probably drawing dead on the flop. I would imagine, based on the way the hands played out.
Yeah, okay,
so
I agree.
I would fold.
I think that's a pretty easy fold. I think I call, and I think he has Jack 9, so he hit the.
Yeah, that is quite unfortunate.
I think we should have folded, but we can't put him on a flush.
We can't put him on a flush. We absolutely can't put him on the flush. But I think if he doesn't hit the flush on the river, I would imagine he checks back a lot.
Checks back.
Which is why I think it's significant that he'd bet the river.
Okay.
Because I think he would check back Jack 9 a lot on the river. I think it's highly unlikely he would bet it. I mean, he might, who knows, but I think it seems unlikely to me. He's got decent showdown value. Why would you turn it into a bluff?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, I would have folded the flop, and I would have folded the best hand on the flop there. But once we hit the ace, we have to call the turn, and then again on the river, I would have just folded because I played a lot of micro-stakes poker, and yeah, people do bluff. I'm not saying people never bluff, but typically when people are firing 3 barrels, they're usually going to be towards the top end of their range. And you can find that out just by looking at most regulars, most villains in your games. You'll see aggression frequencies and aggression factors drop significantly on the river. Usually they're chopped in half. There are lots of players who will have quite nicely balanced ranges, who will have like 50% aggression frequency, flop, turn and river, but you'll see lots of people that go like 50, 40, 22. You know, and there's tons and tons and tons of them. And it just goes to show that we should probably, unless we think we're playing a quite highly skilled villain who's capable of triple barreling us with layer, unless we have a good reason to think he's capable of it, we should probably just respect the triple barrel and fold to it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay, well, thanks very much for that. We've just done an hour now, which has been really nice, really useful. Looking forward to doing the next session with you. And
I found that's really helpful.
Yeah,
actually.
Let's hope other people enjoy it too, and hope we get some good feedback. So thanks very much, Scott, and we'll catch up with you next week.
All right, sounds good. See you, man.
Cheers, bud.